You know, I remember the day that I got the call to join this ticket. It's about 4 years ago this time. Karen and I had prayed all the way through it, and I said yes in a heartbeat. Because I knew then that Donald Trump had the vision, the leadership, and the strength to make America great again, and in 4 short years, that's just what we've done. I mean, from the first day of this administration, President Trump has been working to keep the promises that he made to the people of Arizona and people all across this country. Especially, this president has worked every day, I can attest, to keep the promises that he has made to people of faith. We've stood for the sanctity of life without apology. We've stood for religious liberty of every American of every faith. We've made the strongest military in the history of the world stronger still. We've rebuilt our military and restored the arsenal of democracy. You know, I have to tell you, as the proud father of a United States Marine who's stationed right here in Arizona, and as the proud father-in-law of a United States Navy pilot, I couldn't be more proud to be vice president to a president who has so supported the men and women of our armed forces. We're finally giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard the resources and the support they need to accomplish their mission and defend this nation. True. And this president has also appointed more conservatives to our Court of Appeals than any president in American history. In the midst of all of that, in our first 3 years, with the strong support of these conservatives in the Congress, we revived the American economy with less taxes, less regulation, more American energy, and the kind of trade deals that put American jobs and American workers first. It's amazing. In those first 3 years, this president kept all the promises that he made to the people of Arizona and then some. We cut those taxes across the board for working families and businesses large and small. In fact, this president signed more bills cutting federal red tape than any president in American history. And the USMCA is now the law of the land. It's a win for America and a win for Arizona. We unleashed American energy, and in the midst of all of that, in those first 3 years, American businesses created more than 7 million good-paying jobs. And then the coronavirus pandemic hit. And it's been a challenging time, especially over the last several months here in the state of Arizona. You know, early in this pandemic, the American people saw the leadership of President Trump shine forth. This president marshaled not only a whole of government response, but a whole of America response. We reinvented testing, and now America has done more testing for the coronavirus than any nation on earth. We arranged for the manufacture and delivery of hundreds of millions of medical supplies to all of the incredible healthcare workers in hospitals all across this country. We've been working around the clock since February of this year, developing medicines known as therapeutics at a record pace. And I'm proud to say that we are well on our way to having the first coronavirus vaccine before the end of this year. Now, we have a ways to go. And we all have a role to play to protect the vulnerable, to save lives, and I know the people of Arizona will continue to do that. There's not a day gone by since the president tapped me to lead the White House Coronavirus Task Force that I haven't thought of the families that have suffered loss. And today our hearts are with more than 160,000 American families that have lost loved ones. But our hearts are also filled with gratitude to the amazing first responders, the amazing doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers who have been nothing less than heroic all through this pandemic. And they have our thanks. Now let me say to the people of Arizona, we're encouraged by the progress that you're making in the Grand Canyon State. and the progress we're seeing all across the Sun Belt. Because of this president's leadership and all of our efforts, because of the strong leadership here in the state of Arizona in this challenging time, I continue to receive reports that cases are coming down in Arizona. Positive tests are coming down, and the economy is coming back. Thank you, Governor Doug Ducey, for your strong, steady, and compassionate leadership. And the economy is coming back. You know, it's amazing to think, after losing 22 million jobs at the height of this pandemic, because of the solid foundation that our president poured in those first 3 years of less government, less taxes, more free and fair trade, more American energy, the American comeback has begun. And from that 22 million loss, we've already added 9.3 million jobs back to the American economy, and we're just getting started. We're opening up America again. And we're opening up America's schools. I'll get you back. And I want to make you a promise, and the governor knows we mean it. As you in the Grand Canyon State and people all across the country continue to contend with this pandemic, we will not rest, we will not relent, we will spare no expense and no effort until Arizona and America put the coronavirus in the past and bring this state and nation back bigger and better than ever before. We'll do it. But to do that, we all need to continue to do our part to bring America all the way back. And to do that, we also need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing, but soon we will come to a time for choosing. And the choice in this election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher. It's really why I'm here today. I want to talk about what's at stake. I want to talk about the choice our nation faces. I'm here to talk about faith in America and keeping faith with everything that's always made America good and great. To families here in Arizona, in the LDS community, make no mistake about it. Our economic recovery is on the ballot, but also there are things on the ballot more fundamental and more foundational to our country as well. You know, I think this coming election, the choice is not going to be whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, whether America will be more Democrat or more Republican, more red or blue. The choice in this election is whether America remains America. It's whether we will leave to our children and our grandchildren a country that's grounded in our highest ideals of freedom, free markets, and the inalienable right to life and liberty, or whether we will leave to our children and grandchildren a country that's fundamentally transformed into something else. No way are we going to let that happen. I mean, you get it. We stand at a crossroads of freedom. Before us lie 2 paths, one based on the dignity and worth of every individual, and the other on the growing control of the state. One road leads to greater freedom and opportunity for every American. The other road leads to socialism and decline. Well, I know the American people, just as Arizona did in 2016, are going to choose freedom and opportunity when we re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. Joe Biden and the radical Democrats would set America on a path of socialism and decline. Make no mistake about it. President Trump set our nation on a path of freedom and opportunity from our very first day in office. It's really amazing when you look at their agenda. In the midst of a global pandemic, Joe Biden would raise taxes by $4 trillion. By contrast, President Donald Trump cut taxes across the board for the American people, and we're going to keep delivering tax relief to working Americans and businesses large and small. Joe Biden would bury the economy under an avalanche of red tape, more regulation, more bureaucracy. As I told you before, this president's actually cut more federal red tape than any president in American history. And we're just getting started. And Joe Biden even has a $2 trillion plan to abolish fossil fuels. He'd rejoin the Paris Climate Accord and implement his own version of the Green New Deal. President Trump has pursued an all-of-the-above energy strategy that's driving an American energy renaissance. He's made our nation nearly energy independent for the first time in 75 years. We're a net exporter of energy to the world. And it's not just a choice at home. It's a contrast of leadership on the world stage. The American people need to remember that Joe Biden was a leading voice of appeasement toward Iran and the Iran nuclear deal. President Donald Trump got us out of the Iran nuclear deal, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. And where 4 previous administrations made promises to the American people about our most cherished ally, it was President Donald Trump who kept his promise when he moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. So this president has stood with our allies and stood up to our enemies. Closer to home, President Donald Trump has stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. You know, Joe Biden actually said that he believes America is, in his words, systemically racist, and that law enforcement has, again, and I quote, an implicit bias against minorities. When Joe Biden was asked whether he would cut funding to law enforcement, he said, yes, absolutely. Well, President Trump and I know what you all know. The men and women who put on the uniform of law enforcement all across this country are the best people in America. As I just told a gathering down in Tucson of Cops for Trump, with this president and this administration, we'll always back the blue. And we're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever.